395 seconds. 6 minutes and 35 seconds. The new record. And it started with a timestamp. 4:07 a.m. Congressman Jamie Raskin held up a single printed phone record. One call, March 14th, 4:07 in the morning. Duration 11 minutes and 43 seconds. And he set it down without saying another word. Then he pressed play. The audio filled the chamber instantly. No static, no distortion, crystal clear, two voices, one of them unmistakable. Miller's voice, "Listen, I need you to understand something. If this goes sideways, if any of this surfaces before it's locked in, we are covered. He has already told me directly, anyone who gets caught up in the paperwork on this, anyone who gets jammed up by oversight, he'll pardon. That is not speculation, that is a commitment. So keep moving, keep the transfers clean, nobody panics." The second voice, quieter, "And if Congress subpoenas the records before, Miller again, then we stall, we lawyer up, we run the clock. By the time anything gets to a jury, it won't matter, we will be untouchable. Just make sure nothing gets preserved that connects the accounts back to the original authorization. Nothing on paper, nothing in servers. You understand?" The second voice, "Understood. Miller, good. Call me when Geneva confirms." The recording ended. Raskin did not move for 3 full seconds after the audio stopped. He let it sit in the silence of the room. He let every camera settle. He let every committee member process exactly what they had just heard. Then he looked at the witness table. "That is your voice, Mr. Miller." 4:07 a.m., March 14th, 11 minutes and 43 seconds. And I want to make sure this committee understands every single thing that recording contains, because there is a lot. Let me set the full scene. House Judiciary Committee, Thursday morning. The hearing had been scheduled as routine oversight. Document compliance, records management, standard procedure. Miller arrived looking prepared. 3 attorneys, color-coded binders. He had handled hearings before. He knew the rhythm. He thought he understood what was coming. He did not know about the recording. Nobody in this room knew about the recording except Raskin and the 2 FBI investigators sitting in the back row who had spent 6 weeks building the chain of custody that made it admissible in any federal proceeding. The first 40 minutes followed standard procedure, budget questions, policy priorities, document retention protocols. Miller answered everything with precision. He checked his binders. He cited regulations correctly. He looked comfortable. He looked like a man with nothing to hide. Then Raskin took the microphone and placed a small audio player on the table. He did not explain it. He did not preface it. He simply said, "I want to play something for this committee," and pressed play. Now let me tell you exactly what that recording contains. Because Raskin spent the next 40 minutes breaking it down with the precision of an impeachment manager who never asks a question without knowing the answer. First, the pardon commitment. Miller's voice says clearly, "He has already told me directly. Anyone who gets caught up in the paperwork on this, anyone who gets jammed up by oversight, he'll pardon." That is not a vague reference. That is a specific commitment relayed from a specific person to Miller in a prior conversation. Raskin turned to the committee. "Mr. Miller, who told you directly that participants in this operation would be pardoned if caught, who made that commitment to you?" Miller's lead attorney was on his feet. "Mr. Chairman, any discussion of executive communications is protected by..." Raskin did not look at him. "The recording is not protected. Your client's voice is public record. The content of that call is now in evidence. Sit down." Second, the transfers. Miller's voice on the recording says, "Keep the transfers clean." And later, "Make sure nothing connects the accounts back to the original authorization." Raskin set down a document. "Mr. Miller, we have subpoenaed financial records for a 3-month window around March 14th. Between February and April of this year, 14 separate wire transfers were processed from DHS sub-accounts to a series of intermediary institutions. The total value of those transfers is $2.3 billion. And the phrase, 'the accounts in your 4 a.m. call,' matches the account structure we identified in those 14 transfers." He set a second document on top of the first. Third, Geneva. The last thing you say on that recording before ending the call is, Make sure nothing gets preserved that connects the accounts back to the original authorization. Then, call me when Geneva confirms. Raskin looked up. Geneva is not a city in this context. It is a private banking institution, and Geneva confirmed something on March 16th, 2 days after that call, because on March 16th, $847 million moved from a Luxembourg correspondent account to a private banking structure in Geneva. 2 days after you told someone to wait for Geneva to confirm. The room erupted, not gradually, immediately. The kind of eruption that happens when 3 separate pieces of evidence land simultaneously and every person in the room arrives at the same conclusion at the same moment. Journalists reaching for phones, committee members talking over each other, the chairman's gavel coming down hard and repeatedly. Raskin waited. He did not move. He stood at the microphone and waited for the room to settle, with the patience of someone who has delivered devastating evidence before and knows that composure in that moment is everything. When the gavel finally brought order, he continued. Fourth, the clock. Your recording says, we stall, we lawyer up, we run the clock. By the time anything gets to a jury, it won't matter. Mr. Miller, that is not a legal strategy. That is an admission that you anticipated criminal prosecution and were already planning obstruction before any investigation was opened. That conversation happened March 14th. Our subpoena was issued March 30th. You were planning your obstruction response 16 days before we even formally opened the inquiry. He pulled out his phone, opened the stopwatch. Mr. Miller, I have 4 questions from that recording. Who promised you pardons? What are the accounts the transfers connect back to? What did Geneva confirm on March 16th? And who was on the other end of that call at 4:07 in the morning? He pressed start. 10 seconds, Miller's hands on the table, completely still. 20 seconds, his lead attorney writing something urgent. His second attorney on her phone under the table. 30 seconds, a Democrat from Maryland spoke from her seat. Mr. Chairman, we just heard a recording of a senior government official being told he will be pardoned for federal crimes he has not yet committed. That is witness to a conspiracy being described in real time on audio. 40 seconds. Miller said nothing. His face had not changed expression since the recording ended. Controlled. Deliberately, visibly controlled. 60 seconds, 1 full minute. Raskin walked slowly toward the center of the room. The person who promised pardons had advanced knowledge of the operation, had direct communication with Miller about it, and was senior enough that Miller found the promise credible enough to relay to a co-conspirator at 4 in the morning. That narrows the field considerably. 80 seconds. His lead attorney tried again. Mr. Chairman, the recording's authenticity has not been established. Raskin turned toward him for the first time. The recording was extracted from a device seized by the FBI under a valid federal warrant. The chain of custody has been certified. The voice analysis has been completed. The metadata has been verified. The authentication is in the record. Sit down. 100 seconds. Raskin stopped walking. Mr. Miller, the person you were calling at 4 a.m., has already been identified. We have the phone records. We have the device. We have a cooperating witness who was present for 2 prior conversations where the same operation was discussed. You are not protecting an unknown person. You are protecting someone we already know. 120 seconds, 2 full minutes. Your silence is not concealment. It is confirmation. 140 seconds. Miller's jaw tightened. His fingers pressed harder against the table surface. Both movements captured clearly on camera. 160 seconds. A Republican committee member from Texas spoke quietly. Steve, if someone above you made promises they shouldn't have made, that is on them. You have an opportunity right now to get ahead of this. Miller looked at him for 2 full seconds, looked away. 180 seconds, 3 full minutes. Raskin stood completely still. The Geneva confirmation on March 16th was not the end of the money trail. After Geneva confirmed, the $847 million moved again on March 21st, split into 3 accounts across 2 jurisdictions. All 3 accounts share a beneficial ownership structure that connects back to a holding company we have been tracking for 11 weeks. And that holding company has a documented relationship with 2 of the individuals present at a meeting in your office on a date I think you remember very well. 200 seconds. Miller's second attorney stood. Mr. Chairman, my client needs a recess to consult with. The chairman cut her off flat. Your client has had 3 attorneys and 40 minutes of standard questioning before this moment. He will answer or be held in contempt. She sat. 220 seconds. Raskin reached into the folder one final time. Mr. Miller, I want to read you one more section of the recording. You say by the time anything gets to a jury, it won't matter. We will be untouchable. I want you to understand something about that statement. The word untouchable appears in federal case law in a very specific context. It is the language of conspiracy. It is the language of people who believe they have arranged protection in advance. And it is the kind of language that federal prosecutors highlight in opening statements because it tells a jury everything they need to know about intent. 240 seconds, 4 full minutes. You said untouchable at 4 in the morning on March 14th. The subpoena arrived March 30th. The DOJ referral is being filed today. I want to know how untouchable feels right now. 260 seconds. Miller said nothing, did not move, did not look up. 280 seconds. 300 seconds. 5 full minutes. 320 seconds. 340. 360. 380 seconds. His lead attorney made one final attempt. Mr. Chairman, we formally invoke. The chairman cut him off before he finished the sentence. Overruled. Your client will answer or we proceed to contempt. The attorney sat. 390, 393, 394, 395. Raskin stopped the timer. He looked at it for a moment. Then he looked at the committee. 6 minutes and 35 seconds. The new record. He turned to the chairman. The witness has refused to answer. I move to hold Stephen Miller in contempt of Congress. I further move to refer this matter to the Department of Justice for criminal investigation under 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiracy, 18 U.S.C. 1512, witness tampering and obstruction, and 18 U.S.C. 211, bribery of public officials, given the explicit discussion of pardons as consideration for participation in a criminal enterprise. I further move to request that the FBI identify and formally interview every individual with knowledge of the pardon commitment described in the March 14th recording. All 3 motions were seconded immediately. All 3 passed unanimously. Miller had not spoken in 6 minutes and 35 seconds. His attorneys were both writing when the votes concluded. His lead attorney had filled 3 complete pages. Raskin gathered his materials, picked up the audio player, held it up toward the cameras one final time. 395 seconds. That is how long you sat frozen rather than answer 4 questions. Who promised pardons? What are the accounts? What did Geneva confirm? Who was on that call? He set the player on the committee table. You said untouchable at 4:07 in the morning. You said we will run the clock. But federal recordings do not run out. Chain of custody does not expire. And the cooperating witness who provided this recording has already answered every question you refused to answer today. Every single one. He looked directly at Miller. 395 seconds is not silence, it is a confession with a timer on it. The DOJ referral has been filed. The FBI has the recording, the phone records, and the cooperating witness, and the name of whoever promised pardons is the next thing this committee makes public. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because when that name comes out, 395 seconds of frozen silence will be the least surprising thing about this story.